Hello, everyone, and welcome to 100 Yards of Football Sports Talk Radio. I'm your host, Logan Landers, and today we have a very special topic with a very special guest. We're talking about who's going to be the next head coach for Auburn, and coming on the show once again. We have a two-time guest here, Mr. Jake Crain. Jake, welcome to the show.
Definitely, man. I'm glad I didn't screw it too bad up the first time where y'all wanted me back.
Hey, we love to have you on, man, because we know. I've seen on your Facebook page and everything, you are an Auburn expert. You cover that team religiously almost. And you know a lot about this team and their ups and downs this year. It's been a roller coaster of a season. Currently, they're at a 6-4 record almost at the end of this year. And, I mean, it's been a tough one for Gus Miles, the former head coach now. And so first off, just what are your initial thoughts on the hiring of, the 8-year veteran of the that Tigers team being let go?
Yeah, and Auburn being in the SEC, obviously we try and cover the SEC as hard as possible. And I'm from, basically Auburn. My dad played there, so it obviously does have a special place for me. And I tend to lean that way when it comes to, rooting for on the field stuff. But, looking at Coach Malzahn, I do want to say this first. I mean, I coached before. I was in college doing it, and I never like seeing anybody get fired or let go or anything like that. But to me, it's a lot more because, again, Gus Malzahn's rich. I mean, he's going to get $10 million here, I think, in a couple of days. So do I feel sorry for him as much? No, but I feel sorry for the analysts and the GAs and the guys that aren't making a ton of money that now got to go find a new job and probably uproot their family, and they don't have, a $10 million check coming, in a couple weeks. So I do want to say that first. But at Auburn with Gus Malzahn, I mean, it's just been a bunch of the same stuff. I mean, you've gotten, now 7 straight years of at least 4 losses for $7 million a year. That's just not going to cut it at a place like Auburn. You're 2-7 against Georgia. You're 3-5 against Bama. You're 3-5 against LSU. You have no college football playoff appearances. You got no national championships. And your only SEC championship, you won your first year at Auburn with Gene Chizik's players. So just for what he was getting paid, and everybody says, well, the players never got in trouble and all this stuff. Well, if you want to hire a school counselor, then go pay him $7 million and be excited about that. But at the end of the day, you got to win games, and you got to win games. And when you get hired at Auburn, you get hired to beat Georgia, and you get hired to beat Alabama, and you get hired to beat LSU. And with Gus Malzahn, Auburn was just slowly slipping into the friend zone of the SEC. And that's especially nowadays with the way the SEC is in general. But, speaking of the West, when you look at Texas A&M and what they're doing, you look at the excitement in the Mississippi schools, you look at what Sam Pittman is doing and will do at Arkansas. You're in shark-infested waters, and if you're Auburn, you can't keep swimming around with a bottlenose dolphin.
Yeah, I mean, you bring a good point. I mean, also, it's a good idea to bring up the fact that, while, yes, Gus Malzahn did get fired, there's also a lot of guys that were in his kind of circle that were working at Auburn that are probably going to be let go as well, which is also, just an awful situation.
Oh, yeah, it's tough. I mean, it's a tough situation. But, I mean, again, that's the business that you're in. And I always said when I was coaching, man, I just want to make it to my first buyout. I just want them to have to. I would love for somebody to fire me for $10 million or $13 million. I would get fired so hard, Logan. Fire me so hard.
You could wipe your tears with $100 bill.
Yeah, dude, I'll laugh my way out.
Well, since, like I said, they just hired Malzahn the other day, so they're going to have Kevin Field, their defensive coordinator for right now. They're going to have him take over for head coaching duty. So how do you think Coach Steele is going to be as the interim coach for these last couple of games of the season?
Well, I mean, Kevin's a guy that's been around a while. He's got experience. He's been at Auburn 5 years. And I actually talked about this on my show. Kevin's the type guy where I wouldn't be shocked if Auburn kept him as the defensive coordinator. I mean, the defense really hasn't been the issue. And, this year, they've struggled a little bit up front on the defensive line because of personnel. But, in the past, it's really been the defense that has propelled Auburn. And now, do I think Kevin's going to get the job? I don't think you make that move to fire Gus Malzahn to hire his defensive coordinator. I just don't. I don't see that even, during a pandemic year, whatever. I mean, I keep hearing people say, they don't have the money. They don't have the money. And I'm watching guys get fired every day. So, that argument to me, maybe at some places, but in a conference that just signed a $350 million contract with Mickey Mouse. I think they're going to be all right. But, I do think Kevin Steele's a heck of a coach. I think he is a guy that, to be honest with you, I don't know if he'd really want at this stage in his career to be the head coach at Auburn. Some guys, my dad was the same way, never wanted to be a head coach. He never wanted to be a head coach, just wanted to be a coordinator, because there's so many different things that come with being a head coach that don't involve scheme, that don't involve, sitting down and breaking down opponents and coming up with the full game plan for one side of the ball or whatever. So I do think he will do well because he has experience, but I would be shocked if he ended up being the guy that Auburn went with.
Yeah, it's kind of just like a placeholder type of role.
Yeah.
I can definitely see them holding on to him as defensive coordinator. He's done a pretty solid job taking over as that role. But if you're Auburn, and I know if you're Auburn fans right now, you're looking for the big guys right now. So in your expert opinion, you've been covering this team for years on years now. And I saw where you posted something on Facebook that you weren't surprised at all by the firing of Malzahn.
Oh, no. I've been saying it on my Sunday recap since after the South Carolina loss. This got put in motion after the South Carolina loss. And I was one of, we were the only ones. And this was, a month and a half ago. Well, shoot, this was October 17th. We recorded that October 18th. I was told there was a good chance he was going to be let go. And that's something that, we kept updating, caught a lot of flack for it. People thought, because again, we've been, we're 57 out of 59 on our recruiting predictions. Almost at 98%. So people understand, kind of the legitimacy, when we put out a prediction. And then a couple days before, we had predicted Kane Womack would get the South Alabama job, even before he interviewed, and he ended up getting that. And then had heard rumblings that yesterday was the day for Gus Miles. Like I said, it's something we'd hit on the show a ton, and it happened. And it just, my phone exploded yesterday. I couldn't, it was like one of those secret experiments during World War II, man. I couldn't figure out what was going on. So it was crazy. Something that, again, when you trust your sources and they keep getting it right, you're going to keep trusting them. So that's what we're going to do over at the J-Boy Show.
Yeah, whenever I had you on last time, we talked about a lot of potential prospects for that Tigers team. It was great just seeing who all committed, who all and stuff like that. So that was a really fun show. If you guys haven't seen that yet, go check it out. We did a couple of months ago. Really good.
It was fun.
But so let's get down to the business here, Jake. There's a lot of guys that are in this potential head coaching pool. I want to ask a few names, and I want to get your opinion on them.
Yeah.
And see if they are the right fit for this Tigers team in 2021. All right, so the big name that everyone's talking about, Hugh Freeze out of Liberty, who he's been around the game for a while now. What do you think about Mr. Freeze?
Well, Hugh's an incredible coach, incredible developer of quarterbacks, has a really good offensive system, is able to manipulate his system to his personnel, which I think is a lost art in coaching that people are starting to find again. But here's the deal with Hugh Freeze. When all that stuff went down at Ole Miss, and Greg Sankey, I think, is a great commissioner for the SEC. I think he is fair across the board. And he basically told every institution, I'm not saying you can't hire Hugh Freeze as the OC or the head coach, but if you do, the SEC compliance office and the NCAA compliance office are going to go through your program with a fine-tooth comb over and over and over. And if you're a school like Auburn recruiting the guys that you are, and I tell it like it is, I'm not going to hide it. A lot of schools give these kids extra benefits. Let's not play around. And in order to get some of these guys, the guys that you need to win, especially up front, that 5-star tackle, that 5-star guard, that 5-star DN that's going to be a first-round pick coming off the edge. It's not just handshakes and smiles that get them to go where they want. There's some things that go into it. And if you're not able to compete in that arena, you're not going to get that kid. That's just how it is. And if you don't get those kids, it's very hard to beat Alabama and Georgia and LSU and Florida and those guys consistently. And I'm not saying that you have to just cheat to win. That's not what I'm saying. But there are ways, just like there are ways in everything, that some stuff happens, some rules can get bent, and if you're not able to play that game, it is very, very hard to recruit at a top level, which means it's going to be very, very hard to have the best players on the field. I like Hugh Freeze. I think Hugh Freeze is a great coach. The only thing you got to know is it comes with a shadow. And if I'm Auburn and I'm looking at what's going on with the basketball program right now, which they're fine, that I'm not, alluding to anything crazy, but they're trying to get the NCAA out the house. They don't want to invite, because right now with basketball, the NCAA is dribbling with their left, no pun intended. In football, that's their right hand. And you don't want them dribbling with their right hand full speed down the court into your area, going into the paint to try and put you on a poster.
Yeah, I mean, you bring a good point. I mean, if they do end up getting Hugh Freeze, who's, like I said, he's been around the game for a long time, there is a bit of a paper trail that if you do get him, you're going to be criticized a little bit because of his past, allegations and past scandals. There's always going to be that shadow there, like you
Logan,
said.
Can I say something just real quick that I think's hilarious?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
All right, so Hugh Freeze, like all this stuff goes down. We all know what happened with Hugh Freeze, and he gets hired at Liberty, right? And everybody's like, oh, Liberty, it's a very religious institution. A lot of people were surprised by that. So yesterday, a report breaks from a guy that I trust that if Hugh Freeze were to take the Auburn job, Liberty would hire Art Briles. So what I'm saying is Liberty just running a coach rehabilitation program over there?
It's a question of what the Flames are doing right now. I mean, they got a great record.
I'm starting to ask some questions, if I'm around. I do know this. Do you know Liberty is I think they had $150 million surplus last year. They're like one of the only schools that's making money, and they have so much money. They built and again, I haven't seen this with my eyes, but I have a buddy that said he's been there. They built a artificial ski resort on campus.
Wow. Yeah, so
Liberty,
down there, Liberty.
Look, somebody tapped into the right channel down there, bro.
Right. Wow. Yeah. Like you said, I don't know what the Flames are doing down there. They've had a really good season so far. They're 9-1.
Yeah.
Like I said, that's why Hugh Freeze is in this discussion to be the potential next head coach. But another name that's been thrown out there is Mario Cristobal, who's the Oregon head coach at the moment. That's another big name I've seen linked to this job. What are your thoughts on Mario?
I think he's the guy.
Yeah.
I think he would be a perfect fit, because the way I look at it's like this: to compete in this league, and you know this, Logan.
Yeah.
You have to be able to win up front. You have to be able to compete up front. You have to have linemen on the offensive line, on the defensive line. If you look at Auburn right now, it's their biggest problem. And when I see Mario Cristobal, he won Rivals, or I think it was 247 Recruiter of the Year 2 years in a row. Played offensive line at Miami. And he's a guy that can go into a living room when Nick Saban goes in there and Kirby Smart goes in there and still give Auburn a chance. In the past with Malzahn, he's kind of said, oh, well, Kirby's recruiting them and Alabama's recruiting them really hard. We're probably not going to get them. Let's go try and find this diamond in the rough. Mario's not going to do that. Mario, if Nick Saban and Kirby Smart are in there and they won't leave, will kick the door down and throw him out himself. And you have to have a guy that's an alpha male that will be able, and listen, Auburn's not going to be Alabama. Auburn's not going to be Georgia. I'm not saying Auburn should win 10 games every year or win a championship every year. That's an impossibility.
Right.
But you got to be able to go toe-to-toe with those guys, win some of the recruiting battles, win some of the games that get you into the playoff or that can win you the SEC every 3 to 4 years and, have a championship. And I just think that Mario Cristobal, number one, his wife has family in Columbus, Georgia, which is really close to Auburn. He coached at Alabama. They absolutely love the South. I don't know how much they love it out there, and I don't know how much she loves it out there. Right. And you don't have to be a genius to know that the wife has to be happy. And, it's a lot different raising your kids in Oregon where they just legalized heroin as opposed to raising your kids, somewhere else where you go to jail if you inject yourself with heroin.
Right.
And at the end of the day, when I'm looking at it, I just see the fit. I see that kind of hard-nosed, excuse my language, tough-ass mentality, and that's what you have to have. And like I said it earlier, right now the SEC, and it always has been, but even more now, it is shark-infested waters. And the only way that you're going to eat and survive is if you're a shark, because there's a lot of hammerheads and great whites swimming around the chum bucket.
Yeah. I mean, you brought up a really good point. I mean, also that's a good thing to bring up there with his wife. Like they've got family down here and all stuff like that. Everyone knows the phrase "happy wife is a happy life." So
yeah. Well, especially with what? Because Logan, you got to. What? And shoot, I was in it. I'm not married. But you ask so much of the wife, especially if you're a guy that coaches at a really high level. You're never home. If you got little kids, you're barely home to see them. She's the one that's got to, do all the stuff, get them dressed, get the kids to school, move around on a dime, have to make new friends. And
Right.
anytime you get a chance to take a phenomenal job, but your partner, whoever it is, wife, husband, whatever, you're able to make them happy. You're able to make them more comfortable and almost reward them for their sacrifice that has gotten you to this level, because it's not just the coach that has gotten himself to this level. It's an effort by the family, typically by more than the mother and the father. It would be such a cool story. And I always get so excited and happy, and not in this instance, isn't it? But when a coach gets to go home and his wife gets to go home to the school that either they played at or that they, rooted for, whatever. So again, there's a lot of really feel good stories, but I think there may be some extenuating circumstances with Mario around him that could push him to Auburn.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it looks like he might be the one that's leading out among the pack right now. He might have a slight edge over Hugh Freeze. I'm going to throw out 2 more names for you real quick and we'll wrap things up. So one of them, Steve Sarkisian, Alabama OC. Yeah. I'm sure he's been talked about a lot this season for taking over as head coach. Could he potentially go to the Tigers?
I think Sark's a guy that, he was a head coach before at a major Power 5, at a couple, had some off the field issues, went to the Nick Saban rehabilitation school for coaches who want to do good better. And the thing I like about Sark is if you hire Sark, number one, you're getting a guy that runs an offense that is so enticing to recruits because it's an NFL offense. It's balanced. They spread the ball around. It's real protections. It's, they have gap scheme. They have zone scheme in the run game. They do an unbelievable job in the pass game of mixing the intermediate with the short, with the deep, with the play action, with the sprint out. And Mac has just gotten so comfortable in the pocket. And you can tell that he's just been developed so much through experience, yes, but what Sark has done with him, just keeping his eyes downfield, keeping his shoulder square, something that Bo Nix hadn't been able to do, staying in the pocket until you have to pull the parachute. So I think Sarkisian would be a guy that you could get a ton recruiting-wise offensively. He's a great mind. I think he's kind of turned the corner in his off-the-field stuff. But a big part about Sark, and people have to realize this, I should have said this about Hugh, is that, if you get a guy like Hugh Freeze that runs an up-tempo offense or somebody that comes in here and wants to, speed up the whole time and all that stuff's great, but it's really hard to hire a good defensive coordinator because it's hard to be a DC with an offense like that. You're always on the field, good, bad, or indifferent, whether it's a quick drive, whether it's a big play, whether it's a 3 and out, whether it's a turnover. And it's hard to contain people under 30 points. And it's hard to have enough depth throughout the game, throughout a whole season, especially in the Southeastern Conference. So a guy like Sark is the opposite. A guy like Sark can say, listen, we're just going to dictate the tempo however we want. If we want to speed it up, we can. We're not going to do it a ton. We're going to use it as a changeup. But they do such a good job of dictating pace, dictating tempo, and dictating time of possession. And when you can do those 3 things, you can control the game.
Yeah, you bring up a really good point. I mean, Sarkisian, he's no joke. He's led these, the Crimson Tide to, one of, if not the best offense in all the league, in all of college football. He's an offensive guru, and any team's probably frothing at the mouth in a chance to get him. But I'm going to throw one name out there who I've seen somewhat linked, kind of a wild card pick, in my opinion, and that's Jamie Chadwell out of Coastal Carolina, who's led the Chanticleers to the number 9 ranked team in the country right now, which is, if that's not the COVID season summed up right now, I don't know what is. So do you think that Chadwell could potentially leave the Chanticleers, or do you think he might go over to Auburn? I mean, he's been getting a little bit of more attention now that, they've got that record up to where they are and how higher up they are.
Yeah, it's funny. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Road Trip, but every time I hear that name, I just think about Tom Green saying it's the Chad. Like, I don't know how that hasn't caught on up there yet. I think I may just put it on a shirt and see what happens. See if I can Mark Cuban this thing. But I look at Jamie Chadwell. Number one, the spread option is so tough, man. When I was coaching the South, Willie Fritz, who's now at Tulane, was at Georgia Southern running it with Matt Breida and 2 or 3 other guys. And it's just such a dynamic offense that basically they took the triple option, put you in shotgun, and put some pass concepts in there. Yeah. And it's really tough to defend because you can do so many things out of heavier personnels out of that offense. And you can do it out of light personnel with jet sweeps and play action, stuff like that. But, I was surprised that South Carolina didn't hire him. I really thought that South Carolina was going to go hard after Jamie. I was surprised they hired Beamer. Do I think it was a bad hire? No, I think it was just an okay hire. But when I look at Jamie, I'm wondering if Jamie's not going to I think he'll end up moving on at some point from Coastal. But, man, you're sitting on a gold mine on the beach in a conference that you can run. You're from that area. That area recruiting. I'm getting a real kind of Pat Fitzgerald vibe from Jamie Chadwell and Coastal Carolina, where they say, hey, man, do you want to be here for life regardless? So, I think he'd be a guy that would be a good choice, that wouldn't be a splash, but would end up being a good hire 2-3 years down the road.
Yeah, I mean, I've been down to Coastal's campus before and down there in Conway. Beautiful site. They just got a lot of renovations in the past couple of years. And like I said, you can't beat being right on the beach. That's always one of the better options, especially in any team want to go coach to. It's always good to go get a tan before after the game.
As a guy that played and coached at the University of South Alabama in Mobile, right next to Gulf Shores and all that, I will second that motion.
Well, Jay, if you have one final prediction for who do you think is going to be the head coach, what would you put your great prediction skills? Who would you pick?
Well, typically the first guy you hear never gets it. And,
fair.
Kevin Steele is the guy that, they said, it's looking like it may be Kevin Steele, maybe Kevin Steele. I would be very surprised if it was Kevin Steele. I've been saying Mario Cristobal. He still hadn't signed that extension yet. I'm going to go Mario Cristobal.
All right. Well, you guys heard it here first on 100 Yards of Football. Mario Cristobal will be the next head coach for Auburn. And look, I trust your predictions more than I trust a lot of people on TV right now, man. I always see where you're you're on Facebook or you're on Twitter or something saying like, oh yeah, this guy's committed, before you even knew who his name was. He's going to the team.
Yeah, we very fortunate, man. I was very blessed to be in a business with a lot of great coaches that I still talk to that are nice enough to give me information and we have guys that we picked up along the way here at the J-Boy Show that have done just a fantastic job and I wouldn't be here without the people that surround me. And Logan, I really appreciate it, man.
Hey man, it's been a pleasure having you on once again. Well,
Always,
I know you say you got the J-Boy Show, but do you have anything else you'd like to promote right now?
I'll say this. If you got any social media needs, advertising, app development, web design, anything, go send an email to jboy@3116digital.com and we will hook you up with great packages for a lower price, especially if you send an email to jboy@3116digital.com. So that's my shameless plug there, Logan.
Hey, there you go. We always love to get the plugs out there for anything any of our guests got going on. Like I said, Jake, also, great pleasure having you on once again, man. Love talking Auburn football with you. It's always a pleasure. I know you know the game inside and out. But yeah, so guys, this has been us talking about who do we think is going to be the next Auburn coach in 2021. We've had a crazy 2020 season. It's going to be very interesting to see how it moves forward in 2021. Hopefully things are going to be looking on the up. If you're watching us on Facebook or YouTube or Twitch right now, thank you guys for watching us in the video portion. If you guys want to listen to the audio experience, of course, we are also on Spotify and Apple. That is thanks to the Believe Podcast Network, who, Jake, I know you're also on that network with us. So we're doing some great work over there as well. So yeah, be sure to listen to both of our shows. As you can see, we got our amazing producer, Jeremiah Long, just hooked up your media info right there at the bottom there for social media discounts. If you guys want to get anything like that, go and check it out. I know Jake's going to give you a really good discount. He'll give you the 100 yards of football guarantee. I'll throw that out right there. But, all right, for my guest, Jake Crain, I'm your host, Logan Landers. We've been talking about who do we think will be the next football coach for the Auburn Tigers in 2021. Guys, be sure to be tuned in a little bit later on for a lot more great football content. And we'll be talking to you guys a little bit later on in the day. See you guys.
All right.